right, well, good afternoon. My name is Dr. Philip Phillips. I'm the Associate Dean of the University Honors College, and I'm very pleased to start today and to welcome all of you to the series and to the class. It's my pleasure today to welcome one of our own, Laura Clippard. Laura should be well known to all of you, and if she's not well known to you, then shame on you. Introduce yourself to Laura at the end of class. She is a valuable member of our Honors College. Laura Clippard has been in higher education for over 20 years. She's been with us here at the University Honors College since 2008. She's one of our honors advisors, and she's also the director of the Undergraduate Fellowships Office. She's always looking for opportunities for you. She's always available to help you pursue dreams that you may have and to match up opportunities with things that you would like to do, or maybe things that you hadn't thought of before. If you're interested in studying abroad or taking advantage of research opportunities or other things like that, Laura Clippard is the person you want to talk to. Laura has been extremely successful in working with our students, probably some of you in this class who have won prestigious national awards, fellowships, and scholarships. Among those she works with are the Fulbright and the Goldwater, the National Science Foundation, critical language scholarships. There's a long list of those, and she'll talk to you about those today. I mentioned that Laura is a valuable member of our Honors College. It's largely through Laura's efforts that our Honors College and MTSU was named a high producer of Fulbrights by the Chronicle of Higher Education, and that is an enviable distinction to have. So please join me in welcoming today Laura Clippard.
I'm excited to be here, and I see a lot of familiar faces. I'm going to talk about the fellowships today. I've given you some cards. I'll explain it in a minute, but you can raise whatever card you want. How many of you are in the College of Liberal Arts? And if you have a double major, raise your hand. Liberal Arts. How many of you are in the sciences? Okay. Media and entertainment? Education? No? College of Business? Did I forget any of the, behavioral, okay. So we have a mixture. I'm going to talk today about some of the fellowship opportunities. Now what you're supposed to do with your cards when I get to that section is when I talk about a different fellowship, and I will cue you, okay, I will say, and what do you think about this? Are you interested? And so if you're very interested, raise the green. Kind of interested is the yellow. Really, I'm being polite. Need to research other fellowships. Probably not for you, but maybe for a friend is the orange one. If you have a question, you can raise this red card in the middle of the lecture series, and I will call on you, and you can ask your question. So I want this to be a little bit more interactive. The fellowships are very tricky. And so one of the things I encourage all students to do is to keep track of their leadership. So students, I look at a lot of resumes, and students will show me resumes, and really, a resume, they'll say, I did this at work, and I'll say, but what was your leadership role, or how did you make a difference? So you want to keep track of your leadership role. If you're fortunate enough to be the president of an organization, how did you make a difference? And you also want to seek out people who can help you on that career path. So a lot of you do this. I see you doing it. So you want to talk to advisors. You want to talk to faculty like Dr. Phillips. You want to try to get involved. And you also want to, of course, keep up your grades. So there's a lot of benefits to applying for the fellowships. Sometimes people will say, well, what's the difference between a fellowship and a scholarship? Everybody knows what a scholarship is, right? It's money. But a fellowship usually has something else attached to it, okay? The opportunity to go abroad and have it paid for, the opportunity to network with people around the nation. So So it's more usually typically than money. It's those additional opportunities. So there's obviously financial benefits and academic, but also there's personal growth benefits, so I'll talk about in a minute. So with the fellowships, you want to avoid the attitude that they are rewarding you. You've got a great GPA, perhaps you have a 4.0, okay? You're doing well in your classes. They're not looking just to reward you, they're looking to invest in our future. So this is probably the thing, this is how students feel, okay? The thing that usually is the most difficult for students is writing a personal statement. And I will tell you, most of the scholarships that I work with and the fellowships I work with require a personal statement. Basically, a personal statement within 500 to 1,000 words, you basically share your journey, what has happened to you academically, personally, professionally that's made you want to apply for this fellowships. And it can be very, very intimidated. And you want it to reflect, have some deep reflection. So with the personal statement, I work with a lot of overseas ones, and people will come in, and their first draft will say, I want to go to insert country because I want to learn about their rich culture. Well, guess what? Everybody has a rich culture, okay? So you want to try to make the essay about you. And I always pick on I don't have another faculty member to pick on, okay? But I always pick on the faculty when I do the lecture series. So Dr. Phillips, yes. Tell me, how many days, weeks, notice have you, what is the shortest amount that you've had in terms of the letter of recommendation?
Recently or
in the last year, let's just say last year.
Oh, in the last year. Maybe 1 week.
1 week, okay. Sometimes I'll have faculty say 1 day, 1 hour. Don't do that, okay? So if you ask a faculty member to write you a letter of recommendation, you give them less than a day, you will not get a strong letter. I'm telling you, you will get a generic letter. It really won't be reflective of you. So when you ask for a letter of recommendation, give them a month, okay? And then tell them what it is about. You're applying for a leadership position. You're applying to study abroad in Morocco. What are you applying for? And then you want to give them some background information. It can be a resume or a list of activities, but you want them to be able to write that strong letter for you. So if you want to go to graduate school, if you want to apply for some national opportunities, you want to give your people plenty of time. Also, when we look at fellowships, I always tell students that more doesn't necessarily mean better. So if you're the president of 10 organizations, you're probably not doing a lot for any of them, okay? So it's more important that you're involved in a deep manner in something. You know, a lot of my students, how many of you work? Raise your hands. A lot of my students work, some of them work part-time. I have students that work full-time. Your time is valuable, so really pick things that you care about, okay? Don't pick things to be resume builders, pick things because you care about them, okay? So seek out what you care about. Also, with the fellowship world, they're looking for people who are creative, people who think outside the box, people who take risk. They don't want people who are just purely academic. They want people who are creative. And grades do count, okay? Some fellowships that I work with have specific GPA requirements. Some of them don't. I'm always surprised by this. I'll have students on some of my accounts, people will just jump in there and just start an application. And I can tell that they haven't read the directions because after a paragraph or two, they'll stop. So if you decide to apply for something, if you decide to apply for graduate school or an opportunity of some sort, take 30 minutes, take an hour, and read their website. Read what you're getting into. And then when you write your materials, you can incorporate that into it. So they want to know who you are when you write that personal statement. You don't want to, when you write a personal statement, you don't want to just list your resume. That's not who you are, okay? They want to know stories. They want to know examples. They want you to go in depth on your answer. So when you write an essay for a fellowship, typically I recommend at least 6 revisions, okay? Now I have people who have 1, starting the night before, but I don't recommend it, okay? When you write about yourself, I have a lot of students that I work with that have very sad stories, okay? And I think it's okay to include hardships or overcoming obstacles, but you don't want to insult the readers, and you don't want to tell them just how difficult your life is. You also want to take your time and get it proofed, to have somebody read it and look over it and give you feedback. So the biggest thing is you need writing skills, you need campus involvement, references, and all that, but also time management is part of being successful. So you work, you go to school, perhaps you have friends, okay? Maybe even a girlfriend or boyfriend. So you take all that and then you throw in a fellowship application. And so you have to be able to work on it. The best way to do it is just a little bit at a time. So applying for these things, especially if you're going to graduate school, people tell me that applying for the Fulbright, applying for the Truman, or whatever they decided to go for, really help them apply for graduate school. Because once you write a personal statement, you can really tweak it, and you can take that and you can alter it for whatever you're applying about. So it brings about personal growth. And you know, it's really good to think deeply about what you're doing. So you're majoring in biology and you're majoring in English. Why is that? Explain it to someone. You just didn't wake up one day and go, I'm going to be an English major. You know, you had some experiences along the way that reinforced that choice. All right, so let's just jump into it, okay? So I love Eureka, okay? 2/3 of people get funded. You should apply. All of you should apply, okay? If you're going to do a research project and you're going to do, or a creative project, why not get paid for it, okay? So Eureka is not funded by the Honors College. It is funded through the Undergraduate Research Center, and they have a really good website where they talk about this. Basically, you can get paid anywhere from $500 to $3,500 to do a research or creative project. It is open in the fall. It is open in the summer. It is open in the spring, okay? The spring, I think the spring deadline is January 29th. I'm not absolutely sure about that, but you still have time to apply for spring. At the $500 level, you have to put in 60 hours worth of work. That's about 4 hours a week. That's not bad at all. And chances are, if you're doing a research or creative project, you'll probably do that anyway. So how many of you, I'm tricking you, okay? How many of you have actually gotten funded for Eureka? Raise your hand. So a couple of you, okay? So you might ask your classmates about their experiences later on. So they have gone through this process and gotten funded. So, okay, now you can get your cards ready. So how many of you would be interested in doing this? Or have questions? Some of you are thinking about it. You have a question. Yes, sir.
I'm a graduate student. Do they accept graduate applications, or do you have to be an undergraduate?
No, it's undergraduate research. Now, you can check with the graduate studies program. They might have funding available. I know Dr. Peter Cunningham was involved with that, and Dr. Eller, but I'm not sure. I think they have funding for graduate students, but it's a different option. Yes, ma'am.
I've heard a lot of different things about the Undergraduate Research Center. Like we could apply twice for the 2 semesters that we are in the honors research process. Mm-hmm. So would you present twice on the same thing?
Well, you could. Let me explain that. Okay, so there's different levels. So there's a little bitty one that's $500, and there's a big one that's $3,000. For the $500 level, you have to have 0 experience. Okay, so you haven't done a research project, and you haven't done a creative project. You have to have a faculty sponsor, okay? You have to have a faculty who supervises your work. So you could apply, get funded for $500 for this spring, then turn around and apply for a larger one for summer. You could use the same project if you wanted to, or you could switch. So there's some flexibility in that. And again, 2/3 of people get funded. Anybody else have a red card they want to ask about? Okay, so, oh, yes?
I'm just kind of curious as to how this applies to creative projects. What if it's something that's not necessarily, research related, but it's more of a personal creative project?
Well, first thing is you do have to have a faculty sponsor, okay? I had a student, don't do this, okay, who came to me the day before the deadline and said, I told him he said, I'm going to apply. I said, this day before the deadline, are you crazy? He said, I'm going to do it. So he got paid $3,500 because he got funded, and he wrote a novel, okay? Now, I think he ended up turning that novel into his thesis, all right? So you can get funded for writing, you can get funded for filmmaking, you get funded for those kinds of things. My overall perception is it should be related somehow academically to your goals. You probably have a better shot. But that's a really good question. But yeah, people get funded for creative projects as well. Yes?
Asking more for the class. So if you were to get funded for a creative project, I'd assume for your more research-based things, you'd go in, you'd log your hours of research doing science or with the creative, how does that get approved?
Your faculty is supposed to supervise you. Okay. So everybody has a faculty that they work with. You have a time. Yeah, you have a timesheet. You put in your hours, and your faculty member signs it, and your faculty member is supposed to supervise your work. The 4 of you raised your hands, right? That's how it worked. Did you guys have timesheets?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to use a timesheet. That's mostly for your advisor. So it depends on how close you work with your advisor. Like the grant people, they don't care if you send in a timesheet. It's just about your advisor saying you actually did it.
Okay. Okay.
Kind of in our system.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Just curious.
Yeah. And then they want you to, they have something called Scholars Week. How many of you have gone to Scholars Week? A few of you? Okay, so, yeah. So if they want you to present what you've done at Scholars Week. Yeah, there's all kinds of other stuff you can do. Some of you raised your hands for sciences, so I'm going to touch on these. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on anything. You can do science research in Germany, okay? We've had several students do this. These are the typical areas. If you want to do this, you still have time to do it for summer of 2017. The database will open in December, okay? It closes in January. You go in there and you pick 3 areas that you want to do research in. You have to have 2 references and you apply. It's a wonderful opportunity. Again, research in Germany. The Boren is something that I don't have a whole lot of students interested in, but I always like to bring it up. The Boren is about funding a study abroad, and typically they pay about $20,000 for a study abroad. They want you to go to underrepresented countries, okay? And for the Boren, they're looking for people who are interested in national security. National security could be women's issues. It could be a lack of water, anything that makes a country unstable. And they want you to do at least a 6-month study abroad. And this is the thing that either brings people in or sends them away. And for every time you get the scholarship, they want you to work for the federal government for 1 year. The CLS is due in 2 days. I know a couple of you were working on that. It's due the 16th, but the CLS pays for languages, okay? They don't care about majors, so this is open to everybody. So they don't care about majors. For these majors, you don't have to have language study. For some of them, like if you want to apply for Japanese, you have to have 2 years of college Japanese. And for the CLS, you can apply for it in graduate school. You can apply as a graduating senior. Unfortunately, if you just are hearing about it now, the deadline's in 2 days. And you have to write a series of essays, and you have to have 2 recommendations. So how many of you would be interested in applying for CLS at some point? Use your little cards, okay? Okay, so some of you. Yes, sir?
Do they have Spanish?
No. The critical language typically means things not taught in U.S. class. So they don't have Germany and they don't have, French and that kind of thing.
For the research in Germany, what if you apply in December, or if you graduate in May, so you will be
I think you have to be an undergraduate, but if you want to write a note, okay, the DAD has all kinds of opportunities beyond just this one. You can apply to get funding for graduate school, for special projects. So this is just one of many. So if you want to Google DAAD, okay, there's many options besides just the undergraduate stuff. Anybody else? This is the structure of the CLS. You raised your cards before I even told you about this. So basically, it's during the summer. And they pay for 4 to 7 weeks, and you study languages. It's typically a homestay with a lot of cultural activities. So it's a lot of fun. The Gilman. The Gilman, we've had people win the Gilman. This has never happened before. Everybody I worked with or talked to about the Gilman last year won, I think, okay? So that's really good. The Gilman is for studying abroad, and it pays up to $5,000 for that. You have to have a Pell Grant, okay? Meaning you have to have financial need, and you have to go on a program that's at least 28 days. All right, but you can apply for a Gilman for summer, spring, or fall. The Fulbright is probably my favorite program, and I love the Fulbright because the first time I read about the Fulbright, I was reading through my procedures manual, and it said the Fulbright is about world peace. So, and especially in this day of time, we need that. So basically, college students, after they graduate, you can apply as a junior, okay? They go overseas and they either study, or they do research, or they teach. Some of the benefits of the Fulbright, okay? They pay for everything. They pay for airfare. They're looking for open-minded folks. For a Fulbright, you can apply when you're graduating from MTSU. You usually start the application when you are a junior. So if you're graduating in spring of 18, okay, then you would start the Fulbright this next summer, okay? And then you have an interview in the fall. The Fulbright has over 140 countries. They pay for airfare, they pay for health insurance. Sometimes you can bring people with you, okay, if you are married and have children. So what do you think the most popular, and those of you that have heard me talk a zillion times, keep your hands down, okay? So how many of you, what do you think the most popular country is for Fulbright? Anybody that doesn't know the answer? Yes?
Spain.
Close. Close-ish, yes.
England?
Yes, absolutely. UK. They have 1,000 people applying for 40 slots. Now, not all of them are that bad, okay? Germany has very good numbers, okay? With the Fulbright, typically the more popular the country, the more competitive. Some countries have very specific requirements. So if you want to go teach in South Korea, you have to be under age 30. If you want to teach in Morocco, okay, they want you to have a year of Arabic, and they want you to have some tutoring, teaching, mentoring experience. So the Fulbright really varies quite a bit from country to country. We've had really good luck with the Fulbright. We have a lot of faculty support with us, and it's a really good opportunity. You typically stay overseas about 8 to 10 months, and we help you through the entire process. So how many of you might be interested in Fulbright? So I see a bunch of greens. And I've talked with a lot of you. Anybody have a question? I didn't see any red sheets. Yes?
I had a question about Gilman.
Okay. I don't mind, go back.
I have a friend of mine who got the Gilman scholarship this last, over the summer, I think it was. And she ended up having to do a really fantastic project for the Gilman project. Right? So is that a requirement of
Yes.
accepting Gilman?
Well, for Gilman, and I didn't go into all the requirements, okay, but for Gilman, part of what they want you to do is, if you get the Gilman, they want you to go out and be a spokesperson of some sort. So I have a student who went to South Korea who's doing an art exhibit, and she took pictures. Some students do public speaking. Some people do computer stuff like blogs. But basically, they want you, if you're given that opportunity to study abroad, they want you to, in turn, to give that to someone else. So yes. Did you have another question or comment? Okay. If you are interested in the Fulbright, I would love it if you would shoot me an email so we could start meeting in the spring about it. These are similar. I have a list upstairs, and if you email me, I can send it to you. There's a lot of opportunities to teach English or to do internships overseas. One of them is the Princeton in Asia, Africa, or Latin America, and you can either teach or do an internship abroad, okay? So that's one opportunity. There's also, I probably have 40 or 50. There's no way to go through them all. The talk is for Korea. The JET is for, anybody remember? Japan, yes. Everybody's heard of, a lot of people have heard of the JET. That's to teach English. There's the Peace Corps. There's the Rotary Peace Fellowship. So if you're interested in going overseas and turning overseas, teaching English overseas, shoot me an email and we can talk. Some other scholarships help pay for graduate school. The Truman is $30,000 for graduate school. And basically, we're looking for someone who's a change agent. It's $30,000. And what I always tell people about the Truman is I'm looking for someone who's very opinionated, okay, who has a lot of ideas about our society. And here's the but. But has actually gone out there and started doing something about it now. It is open to all majors, so all of your majors would be eligible. So you feel strongly about X, Y, and Z, and then you're out there right now doing campus, doing community service, doing government service. So ultimately, they're looking for someone to be a change agent in our society. We were looking for someone that has a strong record of public and community service. And I'm also looking for someone that has really strong beliefs, okay? Because a Truman can't be someone that is easily intimidated. So I'm looking for someone with self-confidence. The Goldwater for you science folks is for people who want to do research. And it's up to $7,000, $7,500 to do research. You can't apply directly for this one. You have to go through us. There's also REUs, which are still open, okay? So if those of you that raised your hands for science, an REU is basically you get paid, hold on, oops. You get paid up to between $7,000 and between $4,000 and $7,000. And they also pay your travel and your housing. So, and is it shaking? Okay, I guess I hit the computer. So anyway, that's what an REU is. And they open typically, they're due in January to April, and half of them are open now, and about half of them aren't. So if you want to apply for an REU, there's no negative here. You get paid several $1,000s. They fly you or send you out to the location. You get your food, and you get to research a topic in a small team of 10 to 15 students. Some of them, we had a student in physics who went to Paris, okay? We had another student in biology who went to Costa Rica. So these are really good options. I'll just mention this. This is very similar to an REU, except you do health research in less developed countries. We had a student who won for Uganda, for example. So it's health research in another country. We also have some science fellowships where you can get funding for graduate school. I think this is about $30,000 for 3 years. Yep. And I have a student right now who's applied for this one. And you can apply once as an undergraduate, once in graduate school. So, and I know that people that aren't science won't raise your hand, but how many of you would be interested in applying for one of these science opportunities? Yes? No? Okay.
Does it include?
Go ahead.
Does it include behavioral science?
Sometimes we can look. The UDOL is for someone who's interested in environmental issues, okay? And they may also be interested in Native American. The roads, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
You skipped over that Department of Defense one.
I did, didn't I? It's very similar to the first one. It pays about $30,000.
Oh, is it for grad school?
Yeah, it's for grad school in science. So yeah, you're right, I did go through that one too quickly. The Rhodes Scholarship, we've had students interview for the Rhodes. It's typically 2 years at Oxford. And we're looking for someone who has strong leadership, energy, good moral character is what it looks for. And the Rhodes is you typically have to have about 8 letters of recommendation. Yes, ma'am.
Once you're done with that, can you go back to the NSF for graduate school?
Yes.
The NSF. Yes. So is it like, does it help you go to graduate school? Do you have like a
there's a movie called Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Have you guys seen that movie? Remember the golden ticket? It's the golden ticket to graduate school if you're a science person. If you win this, you can go anywhere you'd like. Okay? Because basically you have $30,000. And they usually give you a $12,000 stipend, educational stipend on top of that. So it's a really good opportunity for people that are interested in going to graduate school in the sciences. It's highly competitive, but I just helped a student through the process, and everybody keep their fingers and toes crossed that she wins. So, yes, ma'am.
Does graduate school include medical school?
No. It does not pay for medical school. Did I answer all your questions? Now, the REUs are good for medical school folks. So if you are interested in medical school and you'd like to do research experiences over the summer, they love pre-med folks. The Rhodes and Marshall. I mentioned the Rhodes. It's very competitive. It's the one that Bill Clinton had. Everybody remembers. The Marshall is very similar. They select 40 young Americans, although they don't define what young means, okay? And they're looking for leadership and ambassadorial qualities. So how many of you would be interested in overseas opportunities in England after graduation? Okay. Anybody have a question about these? Yes?
How long does the application process typically take? How far out should one start on these things? Say with roads, so.
I would say at least 6 months in advance. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I prefer a little bit longer, but at least 6 months. There's a lot of essay writing, especially with the Marshall. I think they have 500-word essays. And then the Rhodes has 8 letters of recommendation. Okay. So, and with some of the fellowships that I work with, anybody can apply. So if you're interested in CLS, go for it. If you're interested in REU, go for it. But with Goldwater, we can only submit 4 people. And with Marshall and Rhodes, you have to be approved. So if you have to turn in an application to me that gets reviewed by faculty, and we say, yes, thumbs up, apply, or we say, no, we want you to wait, okay, until you're a little bit stronger. Because I don't want a student to spend hours and hours applying for something that we don't think they're strong enough for yet. It's very hard. It's very easy to say this, but it's hard sometimes. If you turn in an application for something and you don't win, it doesn't mean that you did something wrong. Sometimes things are just competitive on the national level, okay? And I give the example of the UK. I want to show you the website. I think that's it. Oh, there's value in the process. So what I try to do with students is, in the Honors College, we try to make this a valuable experience for you. So whether you win or not, we want you to grow. We want you to learn how to write better essays. We want you to look at what you want to do. So we want to make it a valuable process for you, because life is a journey, not a destination. You can't be guaranteed to win, but we can help you try to be competitive. So I'm going to exit out of here, and I want to show you, if I can pull it up. Okay, well, I'm going to have to pull it up. On the Honors College website, we have something called the UFO, okay, and that is the Undergraduate Fellowship Office. So if we go here, there's all kinds of links, okay? So description of fellowships. So it tells you about the different options. And then there's links above, I'm sorry, I'm having mouse issues, that has different scholarships. So you can look by all possible scholarships, sophomores, juniors, graduate students. You can fill out an interest form. There's my contact information. And we have a list of our winners, which Rookery is one of our winners. And who else? Who am I nuts? Yep. She's over there. Okay. Oh, that way. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. Rookery is one of our winners. I was looking at the wrong person. So, the fellowships are here. The reason I'm showing this to you is there's about 150 of these. So you wouldn't want me to sit up here and read all of the 150 descriptions for you. You might want to do some research on your own time. Do you guys have any additional questions, maybe things I didn't cover, or maybe I went too fast? Because we have a couple of minutes that we can talk about the fellowships and the scholarships. The worst thing for me is to have a student come up to me and say, I never knew. Like with the Truman, you have to apply as a junior. And for a senior to come up and say, well, I would have applied for the Truman, but I didn't know about it. So I try to believe in just getting the information out there to people. You're welcome to schedule an individual time with me if you want to explore the fellowship world a little bit further. Questions? Yes?
This is maybe switching tracks just a little bit, but on this page that you have up right here, I've heard about in the past and talks you've given in the past some honor scholarships that are all under one application.
Yes.
You can submit that single application.
Yes.
Where is that located?
Well, let's go back here. I'll go to the Honors College webpage, and this is under Students, and we're going to go under Current. Sorry, that's all. Scholarships. So if you go under Honors College, Current, and Scholarships, you can apply. And I'm glad you asked. We have one application to apply for scholarships, and it is due March 13th. So there's different ones listed here. Okay, there's the academic achievement. All of these have one application. So all you have to do is turn that in by March 13th. So I would encourage you and everyone else to apply.
And has it opened up already for this coming year?
Yeah. You can't apply in the fall because we don't have your grades yet, but we have your grades now, so yeah, you can turn it in at any point. But yeah, that's an excellent question.
Yeah, I have a question. And this might be, I've applied a lot for those, and I've never received anything. What makes you more competitive for the within?
Well, if we're talking, let's just talk about CLS for a minute, okay? I'll use that one for an example. The CLS is a scholarship that is really competitive. So last year I had 10 great students apply, okay? Not a one person went to the next round, but the year before I had 2. So part of it depends on how competitive it is. So the Gilman, MTSU has about 1 out of 3 students win. So I guess the first thing is to look at how competitive something is. In the case of the CLS, I would tell a student, you probably didn't do anything wrong. It's just really competitive. The second thing that makes a student competitive, okay, is to take their time with the essays. The biggest thing I run across with the essays is people do not answer the question, okay? So if it says, with the JET program, I was reading essays the other day from a student, and he was very nice and he wrote very well, but it was like, why do you want the JET and how will you contribute to the Japanese community? And he wrote a whole paragraph about the trees and how beautiful they were, okay? So, and he thought he was on track. So you have to really look at what is the prompt and are you answering the prompt? And then you want to tell stories, okay? So you've probably read stacks of things, right, for the Buchanan. So if you say, I want to go to medical school because I want to help people, nobody's going to remember that, right? Because everybody wants to go to medical school to help people, okay? But if you say, I want to go to medical school and I have been reading in the Journal of Biology about cancer research because, I had a friend that had this. So you want to share stories. So to be competitive, start early and share stories about yourself. Help them remember you. I mean, that's the biggest thing. But in your case, I don't think, I think
I kind of meant within the honors college.
Oh, you're talking about these. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about national scholarships. Well, I think the same advice still applies. Yeah.
Because there's not any essay for this, though, is there?
Yes. There is. For the honors college, Dr. Phillips has headed that. You what?
I said maybe that's why I've never gotten one.
There's an essay. He's been in the head of the committee a few times. There's an essay, and there's also like a bibliography. And then for the honors college essays, obviously some of the things they're looking for is honors college involvement. Okay, that you've been involved in the honors college, that you can articulate how the honors college fits into your goals, and I don't remember what the prompt is, but to make sure you answer that prompt. Do you have any Other thoughts about that, Dr. Phillips?
Right, well, in that case, and in just about every other case, your statement of purpose or your essay is going to be the most, or one of the most important elements of any application that you have. And the best essays are ones that have a real voice, where readers who are, assessing the essays get a sense of who you are, and you achieve that through specificity. So you don't write in general terms, but you're very precise about things. You describe things. If you have a strong narrative, you're telling a story, like Laura was talking about. Depending upon the prompt, explaining clearly and effectively why you're applying for the particular scholarship, why you're studying what you are studying, not only how the scholarship or fellowship will benefit you, but more importantly, what you're going to bring to the table. What have you done for the Honors College, for example? What have you been involved in, and how have you helped out? So for an internal type of thing, for something external, obviously with the Marshall and with the Truman, the Rhodes, they're really looking for what you're going to contribute not only to the program, but what you're going to contribute to the world. When you're writing an application for something, you always want to match up your aspirations with the strengths of the particular program you're applying for. You want to make sure that it's the right fellowship or scholarship for the type of study that you're pursuing. So specificity, voice, and you want to make sure that you read it, you reread it, you have someone else read it, because sometimes when you're writing something, and I do this, every person who writes does this, you get to a point at which it's difficult to be objective about your own
It is.
writing.
And it's really tricky, especially when you're applying for scholarships. It's kind of like a job interview. If you went into a job interview and they said, "Why should we hire you?" and you said, "Because I'm great, okay? I'm the best." All right, and that may be true, but that comes across as arrogant. But then if you say, "Well, I don't know, I don't really," so there's a middle ground there. You don't want to come across as arrogant, and you don't want to come across, so you don't ever want to say, "I'm an incredible person." I've had students write that in their essays. "I am an incredible person," okay?
What you want to do is you want to find someone else who will say that you're
Right.
incredible.
And you want to describe your accomplishments. You don't say, "I'm an incredible person." You can say, "I worked 2 jobs while writing my honors thesis and volunteering within my sorority," okay? So that's the same thing. So I think when you write your first draft, you want to have someone else read it. So, other questions?
The other bit of advice I would give when applying for national scholarships is be very mindful of the people you ask to be your letter writers. You always want to ask people who know you, who know your work, and who can attest not only to your aptitude for what it is that you want to do, but they can attest to your ability to excel in whatever program it is that you're going into. You want to give people at least a month, and you want to supply them with information that would be beneficial to them when writing the letter for you. Because if you pick someone who knows you and knows your work and who wants you to succeed, that person will write you a really good letter and can write you an even better letter if you take the time to provide that information to the letter writer. To sit down and talk with that person about it when you're asking him or her to write the letter for you, and then to supply that person with information. It makes it easier for the letter writer to recommend you well. And it's not just somebody who has a big title or whatever. Big titles are nice if they know you really well and can attest to your abilities and aptitude. The important thing is someone who knows you really well and knows your work.
And I try to encourage students to focus on the process. I mean, everybody wants to win, and people don't like to not get something. But you want to just try to have the strongest application. Davis, I can use him. Davis Thompson didn't get the Truman, okay? He didn't win. He went all the way to the interview process and didn't win, but then he got a Fulbright, okay? So part of the process is just to learn along the way. So, you know, we wish everybody won, but they don't. But you want to just try to do the best application you can and start early.
Yeah, and that's really good advice, and I was involved in his interview. If you're applying for a fellowship and you don't get it, that's okay. There are other fellowships that you can apply for. There are other, whether they're fellowships or not, there are things for which you'll be applying, and the process is extremely beneficial, and you can build on those experiences, and you can even build on some of the things that you have written for those applications.
Yeah. So at this point, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to linger for a few minutes here. So if you have a question, maybe you didn't want to ask it in front of the group, you want to ask me individually, that's fine. Thank you all so much for your time, and have a great day.